Mountain Man asks for a maid. The whole town mocked and sent an obese girl instead. The autumn sun hung low over Pinewood Creek, Oregon Territory, October 1886. The small frontier town bustled with its usual activity. Merchants opening shops, ranchers bringing cattle through, and the weekly stagecoach delivering mail and passengers. But today brought something unusual, a mountain man looking to hire help. Nathaniel Wolf Creed stood in the center of the general store, his massive frame making the already cramped space feel even smaller. At 6'5", with shoulders that seemed carved from granite, he was an imposing sight. His buckskin clothing was worn but well maintained, his dark hair hung past his shoulders, and his gray-blue eyes held the kind of hardness that came from years of solitary mountain living. "I need someone," he said to Mr. Hollis, the store owner, his voice rough from disuse. "A housekeeper. Someone who can cook, clean, help preserve food for winter. I'll pay $30 a month plus room and board." $30. The amount rippled through the store. Women typically earn $10 to $15 monthly for domestic work. This was an extraordinary sum. That's generous, Mr. Creed," Mr. Hollis stammered. "But finding someone willing to go into the mountains with you? Well, that might be difficult. People don't know you. Don't need them to know me. Just need someone willing to work hard and do honest labor." Wolf pulled out a leather pouch heavy with coins. "I'll pay 3 months in advance, $90, to show I'm serious." The store went silent. $90 in gold was more money than most families saw in a year. Mrs. Patterson, the mayor's wife and self-appointed town gossip, spoke up from her browsing. "Mr. Creed, surely you understand that respectable women won't live alone with a man in the wilderness. It's simply not proper." "I'm offering employment, not marriage," Wolf said bluntly. "Separate quarters, professional arrangement. I'm gone most days checking trap lines. Whoever takes the job will have plenty of privacy and solitude." "Still," Mrs. Patterson sniffed, "I can't imagine any decent woman would—" "I'll do it." The voice came from the back of the store, quiet but clear. Everyone turned. 22-year-old Beatrice B. Miller stood near the fabric section, a bolt of cheap cotton clutched in her work-worn hands. She was a large woman, substantially built, as polite people said, though less polite people used crueler terms. Her plain brown dress was patched and faded, her dark hair pulled back in a severe bun, and her hazel eyes held equal parts desperation and determination. Mrs. Patterson's face lit up with malicious delight. "Beatrice? You want to work for Mr. Creed?" "I do. I need the work and the pay is fair." A ripple of cruel laughter spread through the store. Mrs. Patterson turned to Wolf with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Well, Mr. Creed, it seems you have a volunteer. Beatrice Miller. She's been looking for work for months, haven't you, dear? Can't seem to find anyone willing to employ her. I'm sure she'll be perfect for your needs." The mockery in her voice was unmistakable. Several people were openly snickering now. "She's certainly strong enough," called out one of the ranch hands. "Look at the size of her. She could probably carry firewood for a week." "Exactly," Mrs. Patterson's voice dripped with false enthusiasm. "Everyone knows that size means strength, Mr. Creed. Why, Beatrice must be twice as strong as a normal woman. She'll be perfect for all that heavy mountain work." More laughter. Bee's face flushed red. She stood her ground, chin raised despite the humiliation. "And she eats like a horse," added Mr. Simmons, the butcher, "so she'll have plenty of energy. You won't have to worry about her fainting from hard work." The crowd was fully engaged now, turning Bee's desperate job application into entertainment. Wolf watched it all with an expressionless face, his gray-blue eyes moving from the laughing townspeople to Bee's trembling form. "She cooks well, I'm told," Mrs. Patterson continued with false cheerfulness. "Of course, we all know why. She's had plenty of practice making large meals. I'm sure she samples everything she makes, don't you, Beatrice?" Bee's hands clenched the fabric so tightly her knuckles went white, but her voice remained steady when she spoke. I'm a good cook. I'm strong. I work hard, and I need the job. If Mr. Creed is willing to hire me, I'll prove my worth. Oh, I'm sure you will. Mrs. Patterson turned to Wolf. So what do you say, Mr. Creed? Will you take our Beatrice? She's certainly substantial enough for mountain living. The crowd waited, expecting Wolf to refuse, to laugh at the absurd suggestion that he'd hire the fat girl everyone mocked. This was the punchline they'd been building toward, watching Bee's hope crushed publicly. Wolf's eyes moved to Bee, studying her carefully. Not her size, but her expression, her stance, the way she refused to cower despite the mockery. You ever worked domestic service before? He asked her directly. Yes, sir. 3 years at Mrs. Thompson's household before she passed. I cooked, cleaned, managed the household. She had no complaints. Why aren't you working there now? Mrs. Thompson died 6 months ago. Her children sold the house and moved east. Didn't take me with them. Bee's voice carried old hurt. I've been looking for work since then. Most people, she glanced at the laughing crowd. Most people won't hire me. Wolf nodded slowly. You understand the work is hard? Mountain living isn't like town. Weather's brutal, work's constant, isolation's complete. I understand. You understand I'll be gone for days at a time checking trap lines. You'd be alone in the cabin. No neighbors, no company. I prefer it that way, sir. Something flickered in Wolf's eyes. Recognition, perhaps. Understanding. He pulled out 3 gold coins and set them on the counter with a heavy clink. $90, 3 months advance pay. She starts today. The laughter died instantly. The crowd stared in shock. You're actually hiring her? Mrs. Patterson sputtered. But we thought you thought I'd participate in your cruel game. Wolf's voice was flat and cold. You thought I'd laugh at this woman for being desperate enough to apply despite your mockery. You thought wrong. He turned to Bee. Can you be ready to leave in 2 hours? Bee nodded, not trusting her voice. Good. Meet me at the livery stable. Bring whatever you can carry. We leave at noon. Wolf gathered his purchases and walked toward the door. He paused at the threshold, turning back to face the silent crowd. You people sent her to me as a joke, to mock her, to make her the punchline. His gray-blue eyes were merciless. But you did me a favor. You sent me someone desperate enough to work hard, strong enough to handle mountain life, and brave enough to stand up despite your cruelty. That's exactly what I need. He looked directly at Mrs. Patterson. So thank you. Your mockery just solved my problem. He walked out, leaving the store in stunned silence. Mrs. Patterson's face was purple with anger and embarrassment. Well, the nerve of that man speaking to me that way, as if hiring that girl is somehow noble. But several people were looking uncomfortable now, realizing they'd been called out for their cruelty. Others just looked confused. Had the mountain man actually just hired the fat girl everyone mocked? Bee stood frozen, hardly believing what had just happened. She'd applied expecting rejection, had endured the mockery because she was desperate enough to try anyway. But he'd actually hired her, defended her, paid 3 months in advance. Don't just stand there, Mrs. Patterson snapped at her. You heard him, 2 hours. Though I'm sure you'll regret this decision when you're stuck in the mountains with that savage. Bee didn't respond. She simply purchased her fabric, left the store, and walked quickly to the tiny room she rented above the laundry. She had 2 hours to pack her life and leave behind the town that had made her existence miserable for 22 years. She'd never moved faster. Bee arrived at the livery stable at noon precisely, her few belongings packed in a worn carpet bag. Wolf was already there, loading supplies onto 2 horses, a large bay gelding for himself and a sturdy brown mare for her. You ride? He asked without preamble. Some. It's been years. She's gentle, name's Patience. He helped Bee onto the mare with surprising care, his large hands steadying but never presumptuous. "We've got 3 days' travel ahead. Trail's rough but manageable. Any questions?" "No, sir." "Don't call me sir. Name's Nathaniel. Most people call me Wolf." "Why Wolf?" "Because I prefer wolves to people. Wolves are honest. They don't pretend to be something they're not." He swung onto his bay with practiced ease. "Let's go." They rode out of Pinewood Creek in silence, Bee acutely aware of every eye watching them leave. She heard whispers, stifled laughter, and knew exactly what people were saying. The fat girl and the mountain man. Like some kind of joke. But as the town disappeared behind them and they climbed into increasingly rugged terrain, Bee felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. For the first 3 hours they rode in silence. Wolf seemed content with quiet, and Bee was too nervous to initiate conversation. But as they stopped to water the horses at a stream, Wolf finally spoke. "You know why I hired you?" Bee tensed, waiting for the cruel truth, that he needed someone strong for heavy labor, that he figured a fat woman would be grateful enough to work extra hard, that she was convenient. "Because you stood up," Wolf continued, not waiting for her answer. "That crowd was mocking you, trying to humiliate you, and you stood there and applied anyway. That takes courage. Desperation, yes, but also courage. Those are the qualities I need. Everything else is just noise." Bee stared at him. You don't care that I'm fat?" Wolf said the word without cruelty, just matter of fact. "Why would I? You think mountain living cares what you look like? The only things that matter up there are whether you can work hard, whether you can survive isolation, and whether you've got the spine to handle difficulties without falling apart. Size is irrelevant." He refilled his water flask. "I've spent 8 years in these mountains, came here after." He paused, something painful flickering across his weathered face. "After losing my wife and daughter to cholera, couldn't stand being around people anymore. All their pity, their platitudes, their noise. So I came here where the only thing that matters is survival." "I'm sorry," Bee said quietly. "About your family." "It was 8 years ago. I've made my peace." He looked at her directly. "Point is, I understand what it's like to be judged by things beyond your control, to have people make assumptions about you. So I don't do that to others. I judge people by their actions, their character, nothing else." Bee felt tears threatening, but blinked them back. "Thank you for hiring me, for defending me in the store. Defending you was self-interest. I need someone capable, and you demonstrated capability by standing up despite mockery. That's valuable." He paused. "But I won't lie to you, Bee. The work will be brutal. Mountain winters are harsh, and I need help getting ready. Food preservation, firewood preparation, cabin maintenance, it's constant labor. If you can't handle it, tell me now." "I can handle it. I've been working since I was 12. I know hard labor." "Good. Then we'll get along fine." They traveled for 3 days through increasingly wild terrain. Wolf proved to be an excellent teacher, showing Bee how to identify landmarks, recognize animal tracks, predict weather by cloud formations, and navigate by stars. He was patient when she made mistakes, encouraging when she succeeded, and never once commented on the physical difficulty she sometimes had keeping pace. On the 3rd evening, as the sun set in spectacular orange and gold, they crested a ridge and looked down into a hidden valley. A cabin sat nestled against the mountainside, with a stream running nearby and forests surrounding it. "Home," Wolf said simply. The cabin was larger than Bee expected, 2 solid rooms plus a loft with a covered porch. Behind it stood a workshop, smokehouse, and storage shed. "Main room is shared, kitchen, dining, living. Back room is yours, loft is mine. You've got privacy, a real bed, and a chest for your belongings." He showed her inside. The main room was functional but surprisingly clean, with a large fireplace, sturdy table and chairs, and shelves stocked with supplies. The back room was simple, a bed, chest, small window. but it was hers. Private, more space than she'd had in years. Tomorrow I'll show you the systems I've developed for food preservation, water collection, firewood preparation. Day after, I need to check trap lines. I'll be gone 3 days. That'll be your first test managing things alone. Bee nodded, suddenly exhausted from 3 days of travel and the emotional upheaval of leaving everything behind. Get some rest, Wolf said, his voice gentler. You've had a hard few days. That night, lying in her own room with a real bed and privacy, Bee cried. Not from sadness, but from relief. For the first time since Mrs. Thompson died, she felt safe, valued. Like maybe, just maybe, things could be different. Over the following weeks, Bee discovered that Wolf hadn't exaggerated about the work. It was relentless, hauling water from the stream, chopping kindling, learning to preserve meat and vegetables, maintaining equipment, cooking meals substantial enough to sustain someone doing hard physical labor. But Bee thrived. Years of being told she was lazy had made her determined to prove her worth through constant effort. She reorganized Wolf's chaotic supply system, creating an inventory that prevented waste. She developed new preservation techniques that extended food storage. She learned to shoot, though her aim needed work, and could now identify dozens of edible plants and medicinal herbs. Her body grew stronger from the work. Her confidence increased as she mastered new skills, and slowly she began to believe what Wolf kept telling her, that her worth wasn't determined by her size, but by her capabilities. Wolf, for his part, treated her with consistent respect. He praised her genuinely when she accomplished something difficult, taught her patiently when she struggled, and never once made her feel inadequate. When he was at the cabin, they worked together efficiently. When he was gone, she managed everything independently. 3 months into her employment, as winter began settling over the mountains, something happened that changed everything. Bee was chopping firewood in the clearing when she heard horses. She looked up to see 4 men riding into the valley, rough types, trappers by their clothing, but with hard eyes that made her instinctively uneasy. Wolf was gone, checking trap lines. She was alone. The lead rider dismounted with a mocking grin. Well, well. Heard Wolf Creed had hired himself a housekeeper. Didn't expect her to be so substantial. His companions laughed. Bee's stomach nodded with familiar dread. Mr. Creed isn't here. You should leave. Oh, we know he's not here. That's why we came now. The man stepped closer, his eyes moving over Bee with open contempt. Wanted to see what kind of woman would live alone with that savage. Now I understand. The kind nobody else wanted. The fat girl from Pinewood Creek. More laughter. Bee gripped the axe handle tightly. How much is he paying you? Another man called out. Or are you doing this for free? Just grateful someone took you in? I'm paid fairly for honest work. Now leave. Fair work? Come on, sweetheart. We all know what kind of work a woman does for a man in the wilderness. The man never finished his sentence. Crack! The gunshot echoed across the valley. The man's hat flew off his head, a bullet hole clean through the crown. Every head whipped around to find Wolf standing at the tree line, his rifle still smoking, already working the lever to chamber another round. Next one goes through your skull, Wolf said, his voice absolutely flat and emotionless. You've got 5 seconds to mount up. You can't shoot all 4 of us? Crack! The second shot kicked up dirt 2 inches from the leader's boot. 3 seconds. The men scrambled for their horses, all pretense of toughness evaporating. If any of you come within 10 miles of this valley again, Wolf continued, his rifle tracking them as they mounted, I'll track you down and kill you. That's not a threat. That's a promise. Now run. They ran, galloping out of the valley in panic. Only after they disappeared did Wolf lower his rifle. He turned to Bee, his expression softening with concern. You hurt? No, they didn't touch me. Good. He walked over, examining her face carefully. You handled that well. Didn't panic, had a weapon ready. Good instincts. I was terrified. Being scared and being weak are different things. You stood your ground. That's courage. He paused. But this concerns me. If word's spreading about you being here, more trouble might come. We need to make it clear you're under permanent protection. What do you mean? Wolf was quiet for a moment, clearly weighing his words. We could marry. Legally. Makes it absolutely clear you're not available for harassment. Discourages anyone from causing trouble. Bee stared at him, her heart racing. You're proposing marriage as a security measure? I'm proposing partnership, legal recognition of what we've already built, respect, shared work, companionship. We don't have to change living arrangements or expectations, just makes the protection official and permanent. He met her eyes directly. But I'm also saying I value you, Bee. These 3 months, you've transformed this cabin from a place I survived into a home I actually enjoy returning to. You're capable, intelligent, and strong. If you're willing, I'd be honored to make this partnership permanent. Bee thought about her life 3 months ago. Mockery, poverty, hopelessness. Then she thought about her life now. Hard work, but respect. Capable accomplishments, genuine partnership. Yes, she said, I'll marry you. 6 months later, Bee and Wolf returned to Pinewood Creek for supplies. They rode side by side into town, equal partners in a successful mountain trading operation. Bee sat tall in her saddle, wearing practical but well-made clothing, her face healthy and tanned, her bearing confident. She was still a large woman. Mountain living hadn't changed that. But she carried herself completely differently. Word spread quickly. By the time they reached the general store, a crowd had gathered. Mrs. Patterson emerged from the mercantile, shock written across her face. Beatrice Miller? Is that you? It's Beatrice Creed now, Mrs. Patterson. I married Nathaniel last winter. Married? Mrs. Patterson's voice rose with disbelief. You actually married that mountain man? I did. Best decision I ever made. The crowd murmured, some uncomfortable, some amazed. They'd expected Bee to fail, to come crawling back in defeat. Instead, she'd returned confident and clearly thriving. Mr. Hollis, the store owner who'd witnessed the original hiring, stepped forward. Mrs. Creed, I want to apologize for that day when everyone mocked you. It was wrong. We were wrong. Bee looked at the assembled crowd, people who'd laughed at her, mocked her, sent her to Wolf as a cruel joke. You sent me to Nathaniel thinking it was punishment, thinking I'd fail, thinking it was funny to match the savage mountain man with the fat girl nobody wanted. Her voice was clear and strong. But you did me the greatest favor of my life. You sent me to someone who valued capability over appearance, character over conformity, work over judgment. She gestured to Wolf, who stood beside her, his hand resting protectively on her shoulder. This man saw worth in me when none of you could. He offered respect when you offered contempt. He gave me opportunity to prove myself while you only offered mockery. Wolf added quietly, You all made assumptions based on appearance about both of us, the savage mountain man and the fat girl. But we built something real together, a home, a business, a partnership based on mutual respect. Something none of you thought possible because you were too busy judging to actually see. Mrs. Patterson's face was red. Well, I'm happy things worked out, but surely you understand we were just being cruel, Wolf interrupted. Own it. Don't make excuses. You sent her as a joke, expecting me to reject her so you could all laugh. But the joke's on you. You sent me exactly what I needed. They bought their supplies and prepared to leave. As they mounted their horses, Mr. Hollis called out, Mrs. Creed, your husband said you transformed his cabin, made it a real home. I believe him. You've changed. You're confident now, strong in ways that have nothing to do with size. I'm glad you found somewhere you're valued. Bee nodded acknowledgement, then looked at the crowd one final time. To anyone else here who's been mocked, who's been told they're worthless, you're not. You just haven't found your place yet. but it exists, and when you find it, all this cruelty will seem small and meaningless. They rode out of Pinewood Creek toward their mountain home, leaving behind a town that would talk about them for years to come. As the town disappeared behind them, Bee felt no regret, only gratitude that their mockery had led her to someone who saw her true worth. "Thank you," she said to Wolf, "for seeing me when no one else would." "Thank you for proving me right," Wolf replied. "They sent you as a joke, but you're the best thing that ever happened to me." They rode on toward home, two people who'd found partnership, respect, and love because a whole town had mocked and sent an obese girl as a cruel joke. The town had laughed, but Wolf and Bee had built something real, and that was better than any revenge.